Ladies and gentlemen, this Power Perspective is sponsored by Grand Valley State University. Please welcome board member for Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, Anqunette Sarfoh.
Hi. I was carrying groceries into my kitchen when all of a sudden my legs stopped working and I fell flat on my face on my kitchen floor. A few months later, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I went from a person who took an occasional Claritin to being a person who needed 8 pills and 1 shot every single day. But it only made me feel worse. And after the 3rd trip to the hospital, my husband said, "Why don't you just smoke a joint?" I took his advice, and over time, I was able to wean myself off of all 9 pharmaceuticals. I'm medically retired, thank you. And I joined the legalization movement. And I steadied myself for the jokes I was sure to follow. I prepared myself to be called a stoner. And instead, a lot of people called me for help. Former Detroit Police Chief and Deputy Mayor Dr. Ike McKinnon was one of them. He had 3 failed back surgeries and a 15-year history of opioids, but they never worked for him. He was surprised when his doctor said there was nothing more they could do for him and suggested that he try cannabis. He is a part of one of the fastest growing demographics of cannabis users. These are people who are older, who want to use cannabis to have more active lives. These are also people who are using cannabis because they want to stay in the workforce, reporting more hours worked per week and fewer days called in sick. However, most people live in communities that have opted out, and so cannabis businesses are banned in their communities. And these opt-outs don't just affect customers, they also affect entrepreneurs. I get more calls for chill medicated body rub than any other product. This is an unlicensed product because every time a community opts out, the real estate prices for communities that opt in increase exponentially. And cannabis businesses have no access to banking services, and therefore they have no access to small business loans. So unless you have $2 million up front, you are locked out of the industry. And businesses like Chill Medicated and so many other small businesses are denied their opportunity to thrive. So what can we do? Well, first, we need more communities to opt in, both recreation and medical. I know that most people have never seen the inside of a provisioning center, so here are a few. I happen to be a little partial to the one at the bottom. It will always have a special place in my heart. These businesses want the opportunity to meet and address a rising demand. Women are the 2nd fastest growing demographic, and they are using cannabis primarily for anxiety and for insomnia. However, these are not qualifying conditions in Michigan, so these are considered recreational users. We also need places where people can safely enjoy cannabis, and people want places where they can have a good time and use it responsibly. Every month, I hold mini high tea parties at the Copper House, which is a cannabis-friendly bed and breakfast in Detroit. But we can do so much more. Amsterdam is famous for their coffee houses, and LA is now hosting the nation's first cannabis cafe. But I know more than a few local chefs who would love the opportunity to show the world how we do things in the D. Let this decade be their opportunity. If you allow your employees to take a sleeping pill for insomnia, consider allowing them to use cannabis to do the same. People are using cannabis as a substitute for more harmful substances, and they would like to have the opportunity to do it respectfully and responsibly. New York City and the entire state of Nevada have decided to forego cannabis testing for employment services and for employment opportunities. And more businesses are quietly ending these screenings. And they're saving companies and insurance companies a lot of money. In foregoing those 9 pharmaceuticals, I am saving my insurance company an average of $150,000 every year. I know my thank you note is in the mail. We need more medical professionals to join us. In fact, we need them to rejoin us. Cannabis has a 5,000-year history dating back to ancient China. Plant-based medicine is nothing new. There are tens of thousands of published studies showing that cannabis works. And while our federal government says that there is no medicinal value to cannabis, they hold patent 666, you can see it up there. This is the patent owned by the federal government using cannabis as a neuroprotectant. We know it works. We have abundant proof. And finally, this is about more than medicine. Hemp is being used to remediate soil at Chernobyl. It's being used in building materials in hempcrete, and BMW is using it in its door panels. But this is nothing new. Henry Ford built and powered a car with cannabis 80 years ago. So if business is about opportunity, meeting demand, this is the decade of cannabis. We can build a thriving industry. Let's not be afraid to try. Thank you.